Hello, welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Friday, December 14th, 2018, and this is episode 83. My name is Carol, and I'm known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry. Show notes for this and every episode can be found on the blog and also in the episode thread in the Ravelry group. If you'd like to get in touch, I would love to hear from you, so please send me a private message on Ravelry, leave a comment on YouTube, or leave a comment in the group, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today on this rather overcast day here in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada. But it's not raining, at least not at the moment, so we have to be thankful for that. We've had a lot of rain this week, and I really miss the bright sunny skies from last week, but at least it's been good weather to stay tucked up in a warm, dry house and get some Christmas knitting done. And that's mainly what I've been doing this week, although I did manage to fit in some Advent knitting too, so it's not been all obligation work. So I have a finished project to share with you this week and various works in progress. And I have some acquisitions. I had 2 good mail days this week, so I'll be sure to show those off to you also. It's almost like a little Christmas came early. First things first, last week I announced the winner of the Gauge Dye Works giveaway, and that was Wombat Knitter, aka Patty. I haven't heard from her yet, so Patty, if you're watching, please get in touch with me with your mailing information so I can get your skein of Gauge Dye Works off to you. Now, I know I'm way behind on my podcasts, and so chances are Patty is too. So if I haven't heard from her in the next few days, I'll get in touch with her so she can be sure to get her prize. There is a knit along, crochet along going on in the group for Advent. So if you are interested in participating, by all means, drop by the Ravelry group. All the information is in the first post in the Advent Cal chatter thread, and I'd love to have you take part. Been really enjoying seeing all the chatter and seeing everybody's projects. There are just some really nice shawls. There's a pair of socks. Someone's going to knit like a sweater vest. So it's been really neat to see everyone's progress. I've been kind of slacking. I've commented in there, but I think I've only posted like 1 picture. So I really should remedy that. Just have not got around to taking many pictures for my works in progress or finished projects lately. So that's something I have to concentrate on getting done, especially before I give some of them away. Anyway, I'm going to take a sip of tea because this might be just the first couple minutes you've seen me talking, but this is about the 3rd take up to this point. So I'm going to have a little sip of my tea, nothing exciting, just orange pekoe, and then I'll get on with the knitting. Before I do, I will mention Vlogmas. So I have been taking part in Vlogmas again this year. For those who don't know, it's a video vlog leading up to Christmas, and I think the aim is to record something every day between December 1st and December 24th. I've not succeeded in doing that, but I've got recordings for most days. And today's vlog, which should be up shortly after this episode goes public, is sort of a behind-the-scenes look at how I put my podcast together. And so if you're interested in that, be sure to check out Vlogmas Day 14, and you'll be able to find that on my YouTube channel, A Stitch in Time Podcast, or on the blog, or in the Ravelry group. There's a link in the Vlogmas thread. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing, there's a lot more to it than just sitting down in front of a camera for 45 minutes. And so you might just be interested, especially if you're interested in podcasting yourself. You might get a real sense, hopefully get a real sense at just what goes into making a podcast happen. And none of it is meant to make you feel guilty, because I really enjoy doing this, and if I didn't, I wouldn't keep doing it. But I don't think I ever realized till I did it myself, just how much work goes into putting an episode together and getting it on the air. So yeah, if you're interested, check that out. Let's get to the knitting. So my first thing I'm very happy to show you are my Downtown Mystery Socks by Lori Law of Oceanwood Knits. It took me way longer to knit them than the actual mystery knit along took, so I don't think I ever even got around to posting in that thread in that group, but they are done. These are a Christmas present for my husband Cameron, and so I've had to work on them when he's not been around. And you would think it was that hard, but it turned out to be harder than I thought. I would work on other things in the day and usually pull them out about an hour or so before he'd get home from work. And I'd inevitably be in the middle of a row and I'd hear him pull up and have to tuck them away before he came in the door and came upstairs. Anyway, the yarn I've used is a Cyborg's Craft Room, and it is the Asocolate base, which is a 75-25 merino nylon, and it is the Stepping Stones colorway. So there's the label. I really liked this yarn. It's quite a fine yarn, but has a nice feel to it, and I really think the colors are pretty. It's very, very subtle blend of colors. And sadly, that dyer has passed away, so I think anyone who has a skein or more, either in stash or knit up, should feel privileged, because it is a lovely yarn. So there's maybe a better close-up of the sock. It's a kind of like a broken garter rib in a way. It's got that little bit of a checked pattern to it, textured knits and purls, and has a very interesting heel. You begin by increasing on either side of a set of center stitches at the back of your leg, and then you turn your heel and then you decrease the gusset stitches. So I'm curious to see how these fit Cameron. There seems to be a fair bit of material here in the instep area, the ankle area, so I think this would be a good pattern for people with high insteps, which he does not have and I do not have, so I've never really had to knit a sock to accommodate that. But yeah, I'm curious to see once these are on his foot how they fit. I tend to prefer, I think, a traditional heel flap and gusset, just because this seemed to take a long time because you were increasing in this area. But that's probably partly why I don't enjoy toe-up socks as much, because you have to increase for your gusset instead of decreasing. But if they fit well and it's something I wouldn't mind trying for myself too, and just see how they feel on my own foot. So I think I will do another pair that uses this technique for myself, just to give it a try, and then you never know, that might be one I choose to adopt. One of the downsides is it's not as familiar to me, so I can knit a traditional heel flap and gusset sock with my eyes closed. I don't need a pattern, and you know, it's so familiar, but it's always good to try new things. So anyway, yeah, so yay! One Christmas present done, and I've been blocking these, hiding them away in the closet in the spare room so he wouldn't see them. So once I'm finished podcasting, I'll have to tuck them away once again so that he doesn't have his surprise ruined before Christmas morning. I actually almost left them here in the craft room. I was going to record Wednesday and something came up and I couldn't. And I had them sitting in here, and I think I just happened to come in here, here being my craft room, a little bit before he came home from work, and saw them lying there. Like, oh, I gotta hide those. So let's see, something else. Well, let's talk about non-gift knitting for a minute. I've been working on my Adventurous Wrap, and that is my Advent project by Amba O'Brien. not working on it every single day, but a little bit at a time when I can, and I've got quite a bit done actually. Has 2 triangles to it that get joined together, and so oops, I've got yarn tangled all over here. This is triangle 1. As you can see, it's quite a ways. I think I'm about 2 or 3 colors from the end of the triangle. So you can see I've introduced quite a bright pink here. Hopefully that will blend in okay. I quite like the way it has faded in this area. So yeah, the rows are getting pretty long by now, so it takes quite a while to get. I think in each little section there are 2, 4, 6, 8. I think there's 14 rows. So it takes a long time to get those done now, and usually get spread over a couple of days. And the other triangle has got, I think, a little bit more done on it. And there it is. Maybe it's easier to hold it this way. So long now that it has trouble staying on the needles. So to me, the 2 look quite different. Whoops. Looks like 2 different shawls, but I'm really hopeful that once they're joined, it'll create kind of a fade, and there are some purples and some golds and yellows coming up here in between that I should hopefully tie these 2 together. But as I was saying on my Vlogmas segment the other day, if I get to the point where I put them together and I really don't like how they look, I have a fair bit of yarn left from each side. Not enough to duplicate the sides, but enough to sort of tie in some of the same colors, and I could add others and make 2 wraps out of this. But I'm quite hopeful that once it's all done, they kind of go together like, this is not going to work very well. They join on these sides. I'm not going to be able to do it. They kind of like that. So it's 2 triangles that are one's upside down and one's right side up. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. I can't believe someone had posted in the chatter thread for the Cal the other day that it was day 12 was halfway, and I just had this moment of how could it be halfway through Advent already? That means we're only 12 days out from Christmas Eve, and now being the 14th, we're only 10 days out from Christmas Eve, so it's a little bit overwhelming. On the other hand, I actually have things well in hand. I shouldn't panic. It just, some of the reality is hitting me that we're not that far away from Christmas at all. And I still have things to do. One thing I've also had fun working on as an Advent project, or, leading up to Christmas, are my Christmas pie socks. So the yarn is from Fiber Nymph Dye Works, and it's Christmas Pie colorway, and it's PI with the E in brackets. And as I've explained before, the yarn is dyed so that based on the number pi, and so in theory, if you have the right gauge, the right number of stitches, you will have your numbers of rounds in each stripe will correspond to the numbers in pi. And so 3.14 is the first 3 digits, so it should be 3 of the red, 1 of the green, 4 of the sugar cookie colorway, then the 1 of the gingerbread, and then I can't remember how many of whipped cream. I know I'm knitting these at 64 stitches on quite a tight gauge, so I am getting more than the correct number of rounds per stripe, but it's random all the same, and I really think they're fun. So I finished the first sock, and I've cast on the second. So they're coming along. I have to tell you a story, and Lisa, if you're watching, you'll laugh, I'm sure. So I was working on these the other night, and so here's the pattern repeat. It goes red, green, sugar cookie, gingerbread, whipped cream, and then begins at the red and the green again. So I'm knitting along, and I get past the green, and I see the gingerbread color come up, and I'm like, and I said to my husband, oh no, she's made a mistake. I'm missing the sugar cookie colorway. So I broke the yarn and cast on with the gingerbread and started knitting again on a new sock. I'd cast on a new one, starting the ribbing, and I was about 3 rows into the ribbing, and then it dawned on me, and I said, you know what, I bet that there's a 0 in here, and that's why there's no sugar cookie. So I went upstairs and Googled pi and came up with, I think it's something like 1,000 numbers of pi that gives you the whole sequence. And sure enough, there's a 0 here, which is why there is 0 sugar cookie colorway. And so I rejoined the yarn and continued on. And I looked later on, there's another 0 coming up. So this time, forewarned is forearmed, and so I'll know not to panic when another color is missing. So anyway, they have been super fun to knit. They're there you go. So you see, they will not match whatsoever, because they're not supposed to. Totally random. So okay, not random. I said that the other day or last week too. It's a mathematical equation. There's no, I don't think that's supposed to be random, but you know what I mean. It's not, does not repeat itself. It's not predictable. So anyway, fun, fun, fun. And another project I've had to distract me is the Bohemia, Nouveau Bohemia hat. And I don't think I said last week, it's by Carolina Carvello Cross. That's the designer, and I just have this picture to show you. And I think last week when I showed you, I had just finished the ribbing, so I've done a little bit since then, added a pattern repeat and a little bit. So it's got a lace section here and a cable. And the yarn is Malabrigo Rios in the Illusion colorway. Is that right side up? Yeah. Love, love this colorway so much. I look forward to getting back to this. I haven't worked on it for a few days, but yes, love, love, love very much. And back to Christmas knitting. So I began this week with a couple pairs of felted clogs by Bev Galeskas. I have knit, I don't know how many pairs of these clogs over the years. I think I started knitting them. I know I was working at the yarn shop back then, and I have a feeling my first pair was, I think, back in about 2006 or so. And pretty well every Christmas, sometimes for his birthday, I knit my son Matthew a pair, because he wears them around the house all the time, and so he wears through them pretty good. So this year's no exception. So there's number 1, and they're big and loose, and then you felt them, or I believe the correct term is full them in the washing machine, and the yarn all felts together and forms a nice solid clog or slipper. I'll show you my pair in a second. So yeah, first one's done, and this is Peyton's Classic Wool Worsted. These are the gray mix and the, oh sorry, dark gray mix and dark gray marl colorways. And then I was, so I have the first one completely done. And yesterday I did the basic part of the second one, and then I need to knit one more sole. You knit 2 soles and you join them together with 3 needle bind off along the edge here. Maybe that you can see it a little bit better on this one, so that it forms a double thickness. It helps it, it's cushier, plus it helps it wear better. So I've actually cast on the second sole and have the first row knit on it, or first round. So these are not too far away from being done, and I'll be very glad when they are. I've forgotten how big they are, how many stitches it takes. So Matt has a new girlfriend, Stephanie, that they've been seeing each other about a month. And although they've known each other for a little while before that. And so since she's kind of new to our lives, we don't know her very well, and vice versa. I wanted to give her something for Christmas, but you know, nothing too big, too personal. We're just getting to know her. So I asked Matt, and he suggested a pair of slippers for her. She has seen his, and they're much too big for her, but she thinks they're nice and warm, and so he thought she might like a pair. And so I asked him what size and what colors he thought she might like, because I thought I might have some yarn already. So apparently she's a size 6, so that's just a little bit smaller than my foot. I'm a 6.5 to 7. And aquatic colors, teals and blues, he said. So I went digging through my worsted yarn stash and found some leftover Malabrigo worsted in the Va colorway. That's V-A-A. No idea what that's supposed to mean. I'll tell you a story about Va. So Matthew, when he was little, we would try to get him to say Auntie Anna Marie, and all he could say was Va. And so she's become known as Va, and my husband often will call her Va instead of her name. But it seemed kind of fitting that that colorway should find its way into Matthew's girlfriend's socks. Anyway, so it's kind of a green and blue mix. And then the other day I got Cameron to stop at Michael's on his way home from work, because it's just down the street, and pick up some navy for me. So that's navy 77110 is the colorway number. Not that it probably matters, I'm sure you could find it if you needed to. So the first slipper is completely done. I haven't cast on the second one yet. I decided to break things up and do one of Matt's, one of Stephanie's, one of Matt's, one of Stephanie's. And for those who've never seen felted slippers before, just going to reach down. This, well, first I got to show you this. This is the difference between knitting a size 6 and a size 11. Before you felt them, we can see quite a bit of difference in size. They're just so humorous. I never get tired of seeing these things pre-felting. And then this is about the size that this will become when it's done. So again, you can see there's quite a difference between the before and after. I feel like my top's really dark, so I'm having a hard time seeing the bottom of the slipper, at least in my screen. So anyway, yeah, this will become this after felting. Normally, I have some kind of reference and will felt the slippers before I give them to Matt. And for one thing, my front loader washer does not felt as well as my top loader. And for another, I don't have any of Matt's old slippers lying around, and his foot's smaller than Cameron's. And so I think I'm going to give both of these guys this slippers in their unfelted state and get them to felt over at Matt's place, because his place has a top loader. And I'll either give them really good instructions. Matt has helped me over the years because he's my foot model for several people that I knit for that happen to have the same size feet as him. So for instance, if I knit slippers for my brother-in-law Ed, I get Matt to be the trier honor. So he's seen the process lots of times, but if he's a little nervous about that, I'll maybe go over and do it with them. But if they're both present, then they can be sure to get them felted down to the right size. So yeah, that's the end of my knitting. I'm getting very close, as you can see, to the end of the gift knitting, which is good because it's almost Christmas. So I should hopefully be able to finish those other two slippers, I'm hoping by the end of the weekend. Knock wood. And now we come to acquisitions, which is my favorite part this week. I placed a couple orders over the holiday weekend on Black Friday with Madeline Tosh and on Small Business Saturday with Fiber Nymph Dye Works. And I wasn't sure if I would see either of these shipments before Christmas. We, as I've mentioned before, Canada Post was on strike and there was a big backlog in their delivery. But lo and behold, one Fiber Nymph arrived a few days ago and Madeline Tosh came this morning. So I've shown these off on my Vlogmas segments, but I know not all of you are watching them, so I'm quite happy to show them off again. So this is from Fiber Nymph. So this is on her bounce base, and I just had to have this color. It's called It's Wine O'Clock Somewhere. One of my husband's favorite expressions is, it's noon somewhere, if we're ever debating whether it's too early to have a drink, which makes us sound like real alcoholics, and we're not, but I assure you, but sometimes, you know, you're out for lunch and you think, oh, why not have a glass of wine with this meal? So anyway, It's Wine O'Clock Somewhere. Love that. And then she had a number of sets that she had put together, a stripe and a semi-solid. I had a tough time deciding on which set to get, but I settled on these two. This one's called Chambray and this one's called Denim. And I thought they would be, especially this would be a good color for socks to wear with jeans. So this is also on the bounce base, which is 80-20 merino and nylon fingering weight. And the most fun, I think, last year I had got a sock blank with the Whoville colorway. Welcome to Whoville, I think it was called. So this year I was really excited to get another one. This one is called Sprigs and Baubles, and it's on the Happenstance sock blank with sparkle, because who doesn't love sparkle? And as you can see, this one's actually a design that's painted on it of Sprigs and Baubles. How about that? So I think this is going to be so fun knit up. Like, part of me doesn't want to knit it up because it's so pretty as it is. On the other hand, I just think all the colors are going to be really fun when you start knitting. So yeah, this is my favorite out of this shipment by far. But I love them all, and I can't wait to knit them. I think it would be fun to dye sock blanks. I've thought about it before. I don't have any great aspirations to like become a dyer or anything, but the idea of doing a sock blank and then knitting it up, I just think they're so fun. Okay, and then this morning, as I mentioned, I was actually doing up show notes for the podcast, and the doorbell rang, and I had my Madeline Tosh shipment. So the first part of it was this Tosh Merino Light in a one-of-a-kind colorway, and I thought they came in it was sold as a bundle of 2. I thought that would make a really pretty shawl, and I can see that the colors are a little bit different, so I think I would have to alternate skeins, but I just think the just everywhere you look, it looks a little different. Just all the speckles and that beautiful kind of lilac-y lavender color. I just think it's so, so pretty. It had been a while, obviously, since I ordered these, so I couldn't even quite remember just what I'd ordered. So I love those kind of yarny surprises. And then I did remember this one, more or less. I ordered a set of sock yarn that came with a mini for heels and toes. So this is Madeline Tosh Euro sock, which is 100% merino wool, and in a fingering, and so these go together, and these are called 11 light and 11 dark. And it's so funny because when I was looking on the website, I saw that name over and over, and I don't know if it's just because of the color. I kept thinking it said elven. In my head it was elven dark and elven light, which I still kind of almost like better than 11, because what is that supposed to mean? Unless it's a pop culture reference, to which I have no idea. If anyone knows, please tell me. But anyway, yeah, that's fun. And then soon after I ordered this yarn, Helen Stewart's latest Handmade Sock Society pattern came out. Can't remember what it's called, but she had done it in a one color for the main part and a contrasting, I think, heel and toe. And so that might be just the right combination for that pattern. That's a definite possibility anyway. But yeah, I can't wait to knit those up either. It's really pretty. And then the final thing that I ordered was a gradient set, or a fade set, with making a sweater in mind. So they had some gradient or fade sets put together in larger quantities for different projects. So one that was done up was for a find your fade. I think that's what they had in mind. I think there were 7 colors, and it was in grays and reds, and I thought that looked really nice. Definitely up my in my wheelhouse as far as colors go. And so I picked 3 of them that I thought would look nice side by side and ordered them. And they're a little bit different in real life than I was expecting, but I think it'll still work. And I had unwound this one this morning to show it off on Vlogmas, and I couldn't get the label back on. But I'll unwind it again to show you. So this one is also Euro sock, all of these. So this is the toner cartridge colorway. So it's just a real tonal charcoal gray. This one is called Brienne of Tarth Battles a Bear. What does that mean? Please tell me if you know. I assume it has something to do, again, a pop culture reference that I'm not familiar with. So this one's got the gray with the red. And then this one is called Ao or Io. I would say Ao. And again, it's a red with lots of tones through it. So when I first got this one, I was a little bit concerned that it didn't have enough red in it to blend well with the other red. So I did unwind it and kind of wind it back up. And I think it'll be okay. There's a fair bit in there, and I think there's enough. So, and if I don't use it as a sweater, that's okay too. I might end up putting it together as a shawl, but in any case, I think it will be very nice. And I have to tell you, with all this Christmas knitting and feeling a little bit restricted in what I'm allowed to knit, all I want to do is cast on a sweater. Actually, what I really want to do is cast on about 3 sweaters. So I have a feeling after Christmas, or after my gift knitting's done, I'm going to go a little crazy. But this is definitely one contender. Yeah, and you see it like that. That's not so bad, is it? So looking forward very much to knitting some of these new yarns. Now I don't know where to put anything. I've been piling up that ironing board in front of me. Okay. I have been reading this week. I know I've talked about this book before. I have it on audiobook, and I started listening to it on audiobook, and then I was over at Jessica's place, and she had the hard copy of it and had finished it, so she lent it to me. So I've actually been continuing this book, reading it for real, out of a real paper book, most nights before I turn out the lights. Sometimes I can't even manage a whole chapter, but I really continue to enjoy this book, and there's new characters that are being introduced throughout it. And I think I mentioned that one of the narrators in this book is a ghost, and that is a really cool, was a cool concept when I first realized what was going on. And this narrator introduces various characters that she has come to know over the years in this house that I wouldn't say she haunts it because she's not scary, but she's a ghost in this particular house, and part of the story follows people who have come and gone from that house over the years since she has died. And so I love Kate Morton's books. I highly recommend them, and I'm enjoying this very much. And then a couple of people on the Advent Cal thread mentioned that Louise Penny has a new book out. They know I like Louise Penny, and Cameron and I saw it, I think it was last weekend. We were in the bookstore Christmas shopping and spotted it, and it was 40% off, and I was really tempted to pick it up. But then we decided it probably made more sense to get it on Kindle, and then we can both read it on our Kindles, and doesn't take up more space on the bookshelf, and it's less expensive. So I know part of me is tempted to download it right now, but I still am still have quite a bit to go. I'm only halfway on that one as it is, and I don't know how much I would get read before Christmas anyway. And I know he's asking for some Amazon gift cards for Christmas, and so chances are he will use that to buy the Kindle version. So after Christmas, I get to read Louise Penny's newest. I haven't read one for a while, so I'm looking forward to it. And Cameron has just, in the last few weeks, finished reading the last of the whole series, Inspector Gamache series. So we're both looking forward to the new one. If you've been watching my Vlogmas, you know what's been going on in my life this past week, but if you haven't, let me fill you in. So I'm happy to say I got all my Christmas decorating done by the end of last week. And while it's not a process I particularly enjoy, I really love having my house decorated. So if it's going to get that way, I have to do it. I particularly love the lights. When I get up in the morning, I plug the tree in, have the lights on while I sit and have my first cup of tea and do some knitting. It's a nice cozy way to wake up. And mostly I often leave the tree lights on all day. Obviously, if I'm not going to be here, I unplug them for safety reasons. But if I'm around that area of the house, which I often am, then I'll leave the Christmas lights, tree lights on all day. And then towards late afternoon, I'll plug in the rest. We have lights on, a couple of garlands, and a village. And I just love that warmth that all the little mini lights give. So then Friday night we had dinner at a restaurant with two couples that we're good friends with, and just had such a nice evening. So we had dinner, which is about a mile from where we live, and then they came back to our house for dessert. And I just didn't know what to make. I had the back of my head all week thinking, what should I do for dessert? What should I do for dessert? And, you know, I knew we would have a big meal, and no one would probably want anything too heavy, too big. And I thought if I made something like a cheesecake or something of that nature, then we would only eat part of it and there'd be leftovers, and I really didn't need that kind of leftovers sitting around because then I would eat them and I really don't need them. So then I decided these M&M Food Shop, I think they're called now. They used to be called M&M Meats. It's a Canadian company that carries prepared frozen food and of a really good quality. And so I saw they had some little bite-sized desserts and decided to pick up a variety of those. So I had several kinds of cheesecake bites, which were only about that big, and some little cream puffs and little chocolate eclairs. And I put out a plate of those, and that turned out to be just the perfect thing because we didn't eat everything I'd put out, but it was enough to have a little bit of something sweet. And so I have quite a few left over to serve during the holiday season. So I was really pleased with how that worked out. They were good for one thing, they tasted good, and yeah, it was just the right amount. So we had such a good evening. We try and get together at least once a year. Sometimes we're lucky enough to make it twice. I always, whenever the evening's over, I always wish we saw them more often. Both couples live in the next city over, so about a half-hour drive, which shouldn't be that much of a deterrent, but somehow it's just, well, it's hard enough to get together with our families, for heaven's sakes, let alone trying to see all the friends we want to see. So anyway, grateful for the time we have together, for sure. As I mentioned last week, one of my cousins passed away. Oops, I just jiggled the camera, sorry. And her memorial service was on Sunday, and it's in the city where I grew up, so it's always kind of neat going back there, seeing how it's changed. We came in from the other end of town than we had last time. We were there and saw that they have torn down and rebuilt my old junior high. They've just left one little area of the old building standing. It looks almost like a monument. I don't know that it's big enough to even have a room, rooms in it or anything. It just looked kind of like a big square monument. But yeah, so that was kind of strange. I knew that they were rebuilding it. I remember actually my oldest sister was going there. Used to be the whole high school, used to be probably grades 8 through 12. And when I was a little kid, it burned down and we could see the smoke and flames from a few blocks away from the attic upstairs window. We had a little attic bedroom with the slanted sides to, where the roof meets, like this. We had a little attic bedroom there. Was one of my bedrooms growing up. So we could see from that window when the high school burned down, and then my sister had to go up to the next city for school that year, and they had like a rotating schedule with the students that were normally at that school and then all the Port Moody students that had to go up to it. So she was in the first graduating class of the brand new high school, which was grade 11, 12. All that to say, I remember when this particular high school, junior high, had been built, because they built junior high and a senior high to replace the one high school that burnt down. So yeah, it was just kind of strange to go by and see that. The memorial itself, like these events usually are, you feel sad to be there for the reason you are there, and at the same time you're happy to see friends and family that you don't necessarily see all the time. And we all agreed we really need to have a happier occasion to come together next time, because it so often seems that we meet at a funeral. I think a lot of people can relate to that. We all have busy lives and live spread out all across this country, and so it's just not that often that you're able to come together. Some more upsetting news, happenings is that my son Colin, his girlfriend's mom is in the hospital and is not expected to live very long. She's been ill for quite some time and took a turn for the worse, and so I feel bad by, you know, both Colin and Ray have been dealing with that this past week. So tough anytime, but especially this time of year. On a happier note, I had my granddaughter Emily over here on Tuesday for a few hours, and just had so much fun. I did a little Vlogmas segment, so again, if you've been watching Vlogmas, you got a little peek at what she looks like and what she sounds like and all that. She's just about 4, and she's a handful for sure. Her mom finds her days busy. She's got to keep a real eye on her, but she's fun to be with, and we did all sorts of stuff. We never stopped moving. At some point I looked at the clock and realized why I was so hungry, because it was already 12:30 and I hadn't even thought about lunch. And so yeah, we read stories and played some different games and built puzzles and made lunch and fed the birds and all sorts of stuff. So that was really fun. And then the next day, my other granddaughter, she's almost 14, Morgan, she had had an accident with the sander at school in woodwork class, and had sanded 2 of her fingers accidentally, and neither of her parents were able to get her to the hospital right away, so I went and picked her up and took her there. Sat with her for a while till her dad came and took over. So I was in touch with her. She was worried while we were driving to the hospital. She was quite upset. She didn't know how she was going to write because it's her left hand, and she was supposed to play the flute in a Christmas concert last night and was worried about how she was going to be able to play her flute. And she calmed down after a while. It's just shock, I think, and it's upsetting, obviously, to be bleeding and hurting and all that. By the time I left her, she was much calmer, and she had been holding a fork and figured that she should be able to write. And I guess she wasn't able to play the flute. She told me that there were other things she could do instead. So I talked to her dad, saw her dad and Emily this morning, and so she couldn't play the flute, but she did help out at the concert. So she's doing okay. Let's see what else here. Oh, we had curling last night. Oh, it was a horrible game. Horrible. I had 2 really good shots in the second end. Can't complain about my second end. The rest was terrible. It was 5-0 after the first end, and it just went from bad to worse. So just let that one go. I don't actually curl again now till after till the new year. We have a 5-person team this year, and so we're doing some rotating, and so I will not be curling next week, but I am going to go and have dinner with the team. It's a dinner league, so we curl, then we have dinner. So I'm going to go and have dinner with the team, because it's the last week before Christmas, and I'd like to see them. So yeah, I'll have to wait till the new year to improve my curling skills. We're all dealing with being a bit rusty because we hadn't curled since the end of March last year. Plus we have a new rink, which means new ice, and there are a couple of sheets that have new rocks on them, so we're getting used to a bunch of new things. Plus with this 5-person team, we're curling with different people every week. It's always a little bit different, so it's just getting used to it. This was only our 3rd week back, so I don't think anyone's taking it too hard, but it'll be nice when we kind of get into more of a routine and hopefully improve. We have fun regardless, but still. yeah, I guess that's it for this week. And tomorrow night is Cameron's work Christmas party, so we'll be going to that. It's always a nice dinner, an open bar, a live band, so we always have a good time. We like to dance, and I get to see, obviously he sees a lot of people all the time through work, where there's some people I've got to know over the years that I get to catch up with at Christmas, so looking forward to that. We always have a good time. And other than that, I imagine we'll be hopefully finishing up our Christmas shopping. I just got my brother-in-law's list a couple of days ago, so I have to shop for him still. Have the few little things to get, and we have to pick up turkeys. Go on sale this week, so our freezer's full, so I'm going to go buy a couple of turkeys and take them up to my sister's place. She's going to hold on to them for me till Christmas because she has room, so that's good. I should get her to cook them too and bring them down Christmas Day. What do you think? Somehow I don't think she's going to go for that. Anyway, yeah, it'll be, before we know it, it'll be just a week till Christmas. We're almost there now. So, yeah, it's coming fast. Before I leave, I'll talk about something good. And I decided something good this week because I spent time with them is grandchildren. They're the best. You know, I have a good friend, actually, I was talking to him last night because he curls with my husband. And we've known he and his wife and family since our kids were little. Our boys were in scouting in Beavers together. And then our two boys played ball together, and Cameron and him, Dan, coached the team for a few years, and Cameron plays ball with him and curls with him. So we've known them a long time. So their daughter is pregnant and due very soon. So we were talking about that, and I just said that you can't describe it because until you become a grandparent, you just don't know what it feels like. And I guess that sounds obvious, but I just was not prepared for how quickly and how strongly those little ones just grab your heart and hold on. And yeah, there's just nothing like being a grandma, nothing like having grandchildren. And if you have them, I'm sure you know what I mean. It's different than having your own kids, for sure. It's just different. So anyway, that's something good this week is grandchildren. And on that note, I am going to say goodbye. I'm going to go upload this. I always think, I say upload and I say download, and I don't know which is the right one. I'm going to go and move the files from my camera onto my computer and go edit the podcast, and then I'll upload it to YouTube. So hopefully you'll see it by this evening. If not, it'll be tomorrow morning. And then my Vlogmas segment should follow soon after for December 14th. So anyway, have a great week. If you're in the middle of holiday prep, keep going. It's almost here. You can do it. But try, as always, as I've said the last couple of weeks, try and find some time for yourself, and in the midst of all the busy. Keeps you sane. So on that note, bye everyone. See you next week.